Hello, this is Lance Wolf, and this is Ironwolf Studios. As you can tell by this date, this is the last day of working on this model. I decided I would wrap it up in one day, and as for the other videos that you've seen, of course they had much more dates on them because they were shot over a 3-month period. Basically, as I came into the studio each day, I shot a little video. Here today is just one long shoot. As I progressed on the model, every little bit of progression, I figured it could all be wrapped up in one day, so that's why there's only one date. This is one entire day of just wrapping this up. And to address some things I've had for some friends who'd like to see more artwork for it. Not to contradict what I've said in other videos, I do use artwork. Rough thumbnail sketches where I'll sketch model parts to drive a piece. But this particular rocket launcher here, I just studied a book on rocket launchers, mechanized warfare, learned how the function would be, and then just referenced this Russian tank. Now here, this Russian tank is not an exact copy of the Russian tank, just pulling elements of it that I thought would work the way I wanted. In this sense, this particular piece is more a work of sculpture. I already know what I want. I wanted two massive drive trains to crank this into position and then lower it down onto a piston that it would lock into for its firing position. And I'm now getting ready to create the little piston and also finish off any little details that are still needed. And I have tons of parts that go back almost 15 years of just collecting little bits and pieces. So I've assembled the pieces I know I'm going to use. So there really isn't any artwork here. It's just I know what I want, and the piece itself becomes its own sketch. So it is the sketch. And in a sense, it's like a sketch, or the best way to look at it, it is sculpture. I have the vision in my mind. I've used lots of reference material to just pull elements off. They're not exactly chosen. They're just enough to just pull the elements I need to drive realism. Now here I'm looking for the little foot piece I'm going to use. I already have an idea of what I'm going to use because all these trays, believe it or not, in the back of my mind I have all these pieces in my head, and I know there's that piece. I know the piece I might need. I'm not sure if it's going to work, so I'm going to double check my bends to see if I can find something better to suit what I want. And that's where the sculpture aspect of this comes into. I'm using junk and recycling it to get the look I want and to create the piece I'm coming up with here. Now this rocket launcher is not a conventional rocket launcher per se. It's a futuristic one. So there isn't gigantic chemical rockets. I envisioned that a gun barrel in the future would still be a gun barrel, a rocket launcher would still be a rocket launcher. It would be the ordnance that would have advanced. So my thought here process would be something that would be a substance that would be poured into like a Kevlar cardboard tube, and the driving little motor that could be fired electronically. So the concept here was I wanted to have each barrel to have 4 projectiles that could be launched electronically, one at a time or all at once, one right after another. And so from concept to creation, that's how much it goes into the design. So here's a picture of what I imagined it would look like on the inside with all the ordnance. And I can only imagine at this part it firing and the sounds it would make as it's getting ready to launch. And that's what this picture helps illustrate. What it would look on the inside. The concept here that this thing would fire with proximity detonating projectiles that could shoot over the horizon or shoot things in low orbit. And I'm reaching a point here where I get to finally see what this thing is finally going to look like. And parts of this shield design, which I put on all my vehicles, is based on a hammerhead. And here's a hammerhead. Now I'm also getting to a point where I need to add smaller little elements, so here's where I'll refer to pictures of the Russian tank. Now the pictures of the Russian tank were seen in other videos on the table. However, I don't believe I want to show them as the exact reference material because I don't know where the pictures came from and I don't want to be have any copyright issues. So I think being seen on the table is okay, but to reference them on the show them right here may not be a good idea. That's why you're seeing a picture of the Russian tank. Now all I'm doing here is I'm getting ready to just add little teeny elements to the shield to make it look more realistic. And you know, as for the overall sketch, even the original sketch, as I was building the model, I was going to get into a studio. I thought I was getting into a studio, so I couldn't finish the cockpit or the side guns. So I just did a quick sketch of a wedged cockpit, which I always know I'd be coming back to get rid of. So they're really the sketches of the model. They're very thumbnail, they're very crude, and they're just for my own reference. And I don't think it would do a lot to see them, because the piece you're seeing is the sketch, and it is the sculpture. and I'm getting to a point here where I'm going to have to add just a little extra pieces, and I'm at the point where it's practically finished. I'm getting to see it as I've imagined it right here. Using the printouts that I did in the computer are always a great reference when I need to add pieces. And again, with the reference material, I might do a sketch, but I don't have a formula when I create. If I do a rough sketch or thumbnail, it's only to work out the idea if I can't see it clearly in my mind. And so there won't really be anything like that to show. In future videos, because of requests from friends wanting to see the rough sketches, I will put those in. But this particular piece just doesn't have any. And I'm finally getting to see it as I imagined it. It's a fun point because before I paint it, you finally get to see this work of art come to life. And I can just imagine it firing and right now. Now, at this point, I will try to judge anything that needs to be changed. Like, this is the last chance I have before I paint it. And it's an interesting point for me because I'm putting cornering putty, every little last little finishing piece, and this probably was a 12-hour day working on this piece, just touching up every little piece and trying to bring it as far to as I could to realism. I've studied how rocket launchers work. I've studied future ordnance. I've watched videos on YouTube of electronic bullets being fired where they literally fill a chamber with a dozen rounds and fire them electronically. So I've done everything I could to make this a futuristic vessel, vessel. And right here, I'm having fun right now seeing it finally together right before I paint it. And I have an action figure I like using for scale. I always like to call it what I used to do Skywalker scale, because I always used a Star Wars action figure. But I have this one specific figure I love because it has a beard. It's an Endor trooper from The Empire Strikes Back, and someone remarked that it looked like me, so I always use him for any type of just to see how the scale will work. And there he is. And here now I'm just judging to determine whether or not the piston's high enough. I don't want it to be adjustable. I want it to crank up, raise, and drop down, and to look like something that would work in the field, not have any disability to where it would fail in the middle of battle. A very simple concept, 2 drive trains cranking this thing into position. It would lower down onto a piston, lock into position, and crank around and just, fire. So here I've painted it. We're coming to the end of the build practically. Right here I'm getting ready to wash it with black paint to stain it, and you water down the paint and it washes in all the corners. It does a great job. Now here are all the concepts, logos I came up for it. And what you have to do is you have to pre-stain the logos because they're paper. And when you wash the model, literally, you don't want to wreck the paper because it literally they're paper decals applied with a glue stick. So you have to go in and pre-stain them. And that's what I'm using. And I have so many concepts I've used where each vehicle has to have its own logo. And here, I needed a striped logo that looks sort of World War II-ish to me. And also to fill in that blank area just seemed too empty. And since there wasn't enough model parts to put on it, I thought this logo would really drive the look of the model. And then I wound up, that helped push to use that same logo style on every other part of the hovercraft. And you get some trial and error. Here I wound up with the main S7 logo that I put on everything not working. And here's a list of here's an image of the logos I came up with for this hovercraft. And then I had to come back in and restain them. So it's a lot of trial and error. There's an awful lot of them. Not all of them work, so I stain each one a little differently, print them out, and then see which one best suits the piece. And here's the final, literally the final logo was the final piece added to this model. And this brings to practically an end of these 8 videos, which is the redesign and rebuild of this hovercraft, which took 3 months, or at least 2.5 to bring it to this point. But I so hope you enjoy these videos. Thank you so very much for watching these, and I hope you enjoy them. Thank you again.